One is a respected writer.
I see we're just throwing the word respect around willy-nilly now, huh?
The other is a former world champion. This is Boxing with Mannix and Mora. The fighter.
Just how many times did he get punched in the face exactly?
Versus the writer.
It's a cacophony of great analysis and insight. It's true. I said cacophony. It wasn't my best moment.
Follow, rate, and review.
5 stars all day.
And now, here's Chris Mannix and Sergio Mora.
All right, you good there, Fatso?
So I've been lifting weights, man. I'm getting buff.
Yeah, but every time I talk to you, you're like, I got to gain 10 more pounds. I got to gain 10 more pounds.
I weighed the same as Todd Grisham. I was surprised this morning. 193. I don't know what that is in kilos, but 193. The Latin Snake's going to hit cruiserweight soon. Coming for Jake Paul, baby.
We were asking you this like earlier in the week. If something had happened to William School, how much would it take for you to get in the ring with Canelo? You said something to me that like is obvious, but I've been laughing at for a couple of days. You're like, hey man, getting hit hurts.
No, you guys think money solves pain, and it doesn't, because this could be pain that lingers on until my adult life, man. I got kids now. I won't step in. Now, if Canelo is out and School needed an opponent, I'm in, baby. Give me $2 million. I'm in.
All right. Well, we are here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, getting ready for the Canelo-William School fight. By the way, how many wellness checks have security at this hotel done on you this week?
Seriously, I think it's about 5. 5. I haven't cleaned my room once, but I let them in my room. I say, look, come in, check it out. Everything's clean. I make my own bed. The trash is out. They were surprised it was so clean.
Why do you do that?
Because I like cleaning after myself.
They do it like this. Maybe is the best housekeeping in the world. Like we keep the privacy sign on.
We do
most of the day because we get back so late. We sleep most of the afternoon. But when I turn it off, like as we're recording this, when I turned it off to go to our production meeting, we were gone maybe an hour. It's already been cleaned. Like they're in here and they're taking care of stuff. Like they are on point out here.
It's like they're waiting for you to leave for them to clean. But as soon as I leave, I smile and say, no, don't worry about it. I'm clean. But no. I just don't want them wasting their time and their effort. And, man, they're busy. You know, I just give them a break. I'm good. I'm considerate like that, unlike you, Chris.
Exactly. All right, so we are going to record this episode in 2 parts. As you may have guessed, we are still – we have not seen the Canelo-Alvarez-William School fight. We're recording this on Saturday afternoon, Saudi Arabian time. The fight will take place Sunday morning, Saudi time, prime time in the U.S. So we don't know what happened in that fight yet, but we are going to react to what we saw on Friday night in New York. And then after the Canelo and School fight, we'll come back and do a podcast, or the other half of the podcast based on that one. So, Sergio, let's start with the opening bout in the 3-fight main card in New York, and that was Teofimo Lopez against Arnold Barboza. This was a fight that you were bullish on Barboza's chances coming in. Barboza's coming in probably with some more momentum than Teofimo had. He'd won a couple of really good fights in a row, beat Jack Catterall, beat Jose Ramirez. I thought Teofimo was going to win because I thought he'd be a class above. I thought his skill level was just higher than Arnold Barboza, and that's kind of how it played out. I mean, Barboza gave his best effort, but he just didn't seem like he was on Teofimo's level. What went wrong for Arnold Barboza in that loss?
You know, I was high on Arnold Barboza because he had momentum. I think he was the stronger-headed fighter. He was a more confident fighter. He had more momentum. And everyone knows that Teofimo is off and on. He can be cold or hot. And when he's hot, he's hot. And guess what, man? He was hot last night. He was sharp. I think he was the best fighter that actually talked the talk and walked the walk. He was the sharpest one. He fought the best fighter. I mean, on paper, that was the only 50-50 fight. And it was competitive, but we know who the winner was. Barboza had moments, but the thing is, he didn't sell out. He never put himself in risk to win or to get hit. That's the problem here, man. Whenever you get to this level, you got to try to sell out against a guy like Teofimo, especially, who has been beaten, who has been rocked by several fighters. This man should have done that. I mean, the opportunities were there for Barboza to kind of climb back. He never fell behind more than 4 or 5 rounds. He would pick one round after 3 or 4. He would pick another round. I gave Barboza maybe 3 rounds, but not more than that. I just think it was Teofimo too sharp defensively, too athletic with his feet. We saw flashes of the old Teofimo and the new Teofimo. You know, the guy that still has a swag, still has a great upper body movement, really fast feet, and he still has respectable power even at 140. I like what I saw, and I thought he was the best one. From all the names, all the stars on the card, Teofimo's the one that stood out.
I thought Barboza fought the wrong fight. I think Barboza's at his best when he's the counterpuncher. We saw that against Jose Ramirez. We've seen that in the past against other more aggressive opponents. When I started to see Arnold Barboza come forward, I knew it was over. That's not the way to beat Teofimo Lopez. When you come forward to Teofimo Lopez, he eats you up. He beat Vasily Lomachenko, who fought that way. He beat Josh Taylor, who fought that way. These are the things we talked about going into this fight.
2 podcasts ago.
I know, but that's exactly what he did. Like, did any of that surprise you? Like, look, if Arnold Barboza just kind of hung back, Teofimo would have come to him, and then I think he would have had a better chance to implement a winnable game plan. But when he started to go forward and try to challenge Teofimo, I'm looking at him like that's just not going to work, and it didn't on fight night.
That's something they had to work in as strategy in the gym. His father had to remind him in the corner. They had to switch to plan B, plan C. That's something you have to, already have in mind that you're going to do. Okay, look, I'm going to have most of this fight on the back foot. Boxing, he has a great jab. That's the thing about Barboza. He has great timing. It's not that he has one of the best jabs in boxing, but he has great timing on that jab. He has a great 1-2, and then he switches up that 1-2 to a 2-1, which really throws opponents off guard. But normally that happens when on the back foot. When you're on the front foot throwing a 2-1, you're actually vulnerable to overhand rights, which is the punch that Teo kept checking him with. He wasn't landing it all the time, but he kept looping it over the top, checking Barboza from coming in with those shots. Never gave Barboza confidence to fight his fight. You got to credit Teofimo for that. Teofimo fought the right, I wouldn't say perfect, but the right game plan. He looked good. He shined. He proved that he's still one of the top fighters in the world, and Barboza proved that he's not ready for the next level. He won an interim championship?
Interim, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not ready for the big champions at 140, not yet. But the fact that this gave him the experience, Golden Boy, I'm sure will put him up tough next, and then I could see him fight for another title fight in maybe 2-3 fights at most.
Yeah, he'll now fall into that area where he's got to take a tough non-title fight. Like maybe it's somebody like Regis Prograis who's out there looking for a fight. There's a lot of guys at 140 that he could face that are going to be tough, and they'll be kind of make or break fights for him. But yeah, he'll be back and look to get back in position to fight for a title at 140. Teofimo, though, is now in a great position. Like Teofimo, on a big stage, that looked like the Teofimo that we've considered to be among or close to the pound for pound list. It wasn't flawless. He did get clipped in those middle rounds.
He got blocked by a right hand.
Yeah, he did. So it wasn't a flawless performance, but it was straightforward start to finish against undefeated top contender, a guy that had a lot of bad blood with him. That's about as good as you can ask for, sans a knockout with Teofimo. Now, but Teofimo, after the fight, is talking about Boots Ennis. I don't know, man. Be careful what you wish for if you're Teofimo. Teofimo's only, 4 fights removed from being a 135-pounder. Now he's talking about going fishing for the big dog. That's kind of mixing my animals, but fishing for the big fish in Boots Ennis. What do you think of that idea?
Dogfish. I love it. I love the fact that he's already calling these guys out. The thing about Teofimo is that he wants the absolute best. When he fought Lomachenko, he had 15 fights? Who does that? Who fights for undisputed with only 15 fights? He does. So Josh Taylor for undisputed, you got to give this man credit. So he wants to bite off more than he can chew because that's what motivates a guy like that. The Steve Clagettes and Jermaine Ortizes don't motivate Teofimo. It's the big champions, the ones that everyone thinks are unbeatable. He likes taking that 0. He likes taking that undefeated record. And he maybe sees things that he can do against Boots. Boots also gets hit, So both these guys are offensive fighters. I think Boots is a naturally bigger, stronger offensive fighter, but defensively, I think Teo might have the better upper body movement. Oh man, that'll be a fascinating matchup. I would favor Boots, of course, but that would be a fascinating matchup, and I think I think it will happen because it's something that Teofimo wants, and Teofimo will probably get.
I mean, the alternative would be a unification fight with the winner of Richardson Hitchens and George Kambosos, which, if it's Hitchens, and Hitchens is going to be a big favorite going into that fight, it's a great promotion. I mean, both these guys have New York ties. That would be a pretty big event in New York City. I think that's a tough fight for Teofimo. I think Hitchens...
Wrong style matchup.
Yeah, I think Hitchens
Wrong
at his best.
matchup.
A tough style for him.
Wrong style matchup. I tell you right now, that fight will not happen. A boxer, whenever a boxer wants to make the most amount of money for the least amount of risk, he of course he weighs that. But then also you want the fight that the fans want. You want to actually... You don't want to lose that zero with someone like Hitchens. Yes, Hitchens is a champion, but Hitchens is not known yet. He's a difficult style to beat. He's a tall, long, athletic fighter. Teofimo's still a small guy coming forward. So I think if you are going to take a big name, you got to go straight to Boots. You stay away from Hitchens, man. Let Hitchens deal with the guys behind him. Teofimo already has a name. Don't lose it on a guy making his come up.
Is that a good fight for Boots? I mean, money talks ultimately. And if there's enough money on the table, I'm sure that can get the interest of Boots Ennis. But, Boots has been focused on unification fights. If he can't get them, there are bigger fights for him potentially at 154. Is Teofimo a good fight for Boots?
Absolutely. I think with the way that Boots looked in his last fight against another tough fighter, undefeated fighter, I think with the jab and how sharp he looks, keep him active, keep him fighting in the East Coast with his fan base. I think Boots is pound for pound great.
I think Boots is too big for Teofimo. I think he's too big. I mean, look,
Well,
it almost reminds me a
You said
little
the same
bit.
thing about Stanionis, and then once they got in the ring, no, in the weigh-in, Stanionis looked bigger than Boots, and then after the weigh-in,
You talked about that. I didn't say anything.
I did.
Height and sight and size. Like Boots is a massive 147. There's a reason we're talking about him jumping up to 154. Stanionis is not moving to 154.
at the weigh-in, Stanionis looked like the much
Okay,
bigger
but when
fighter.
they got into the ring, if they get into the ring, Boots against Teofimo.
If there's no rehydration clause, which I hope there isn't, absolutely.
Well, there's always going to be if it's I guess that Boots is now a unified champion. The rehydration clause is gone. No rehydration clause for championship fights. None of that. But there's going to be a massive size disadvantage. Like I applaud Teofimo for being one of the few guys that's calling out Boots Ennis, that's willing to make that type of fight. And if Turki Al-Sheikh wants that fight to happen, chances are it's going to. Be careful what you wish for, though. That's a tough fight for Teofimo Lopez. All right, let's talk about the co-main event, which was not good. It was not good. Devin Haney wins a lopsided decision against Jose Ramirez. Let me say this first. What we saw on TV was exactly what I thought was going to happen. Like, in terms of the outcome of the fight, I did not expect Devin Haney to stop Jose Ramirez because Jose Ramirez does not get stopped. I did not expect at welterweight Devin to completely change his style. In fact, I believe coming off the beating that Devin took last year, he would be very cautious there in the ring. And that's exactly what happened. He moved a lot. He fought behind the jab. I think the problem people had watching that fight, Sergio, was that he moved a little bit too much. Like, we've seen Devin as a cautious fighter before. I'll use the Regis Prograis fight as an example. Like, Devin was a boxer in that fight. Prograis was the puncher in that fight. But throughout the course of 12 rounds against Prograis, Devin was coming forward. Devin knocked Regis Prograis down. Devin held the center of the ring. He didn't do that at all in this fight against Ramirez. What did you think of what you saw between Devin and Regis? And Jose.
The good news is that people are going to forget about my fight with Shane Mosley.
That is a tough bar
That's
right
the
there.
good news because, wow, Haney Ramirez, they broke CompuBox records of the least punches thrown in a 12-round fight. That is so difficult to do. I mean, they weren't landing, they were throwing. Ramirez was coming forward, not throwing. Haney was going backwards, not throwing. I expected this fight to go a decision on a one-sided fight, but I expected Haney to use that jab. Haney has one of the best jabs in boxing when he's throwing it, but something was wrong, man. We didn't see the same Devin Haney with that confidence to let his punches go, and that's what embarrassing fights happen. I mean, he doesn't have a loss, but everyone would always gonna remember that Ryan Garcia fight as a loss, even though he still has an unblemished record. That did something to him. That changed Devin Haney. We don't have the same fighter anymore. And him moving up in weight, right now he's at a catch weight, 144, but him moving up to 147, that's only going to get worse for him. Ramirez should have been a perfect opponent for Haney to shine, for him to pop that jab, to get angles, to easily outwork and outmaneuver a flat-footed fighter like Ramirez. Ramirez hasn't looked good for years, especially in his last 2 fights. Haney had a perfect opportunity to shine after coming off that terrible fight with Garcia after that inactivity, and he didn't. And he didn't, man. Instead of trying to steal the show, he added to how this show didn't pan out to the expectations. And I think he had the worst night out of all of them. Out of all the fighters on the card, I think Devin Haney got the most criticism.
Really? We're going to get to the Garcia-Romero fight, but you thought of the 6 fighters that were part of the main part of the card, Devin Haney, who won, by the way, had the worst night.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look at his championship resume, the fighters that he's fought, Vasily Lomachenko, George Kambosos, Regis Prograis, I mean, you can go back to Linares' fight. Who hurt him back then at 135? This man's fighting champion after champion, so his resume was aging gracefully. He was going to the top quickly. I mean, in his mid-20s, he was already an undisputed champion, already moved up. He was doing great things. Then he regressed with that Ryan Garcia fight. Yes, it was he was on PEDs. He was overweight, so we forgave him from that. But now he had to make a statement against Ramirez, and he didn't. And because he didn't, even though he won, it was a one-sided fight. So many people have a bad taste in their mouth leaving that fight because of what he did. He didn't try to do anything great. So I'm gonna be hard on Devin Haney on this one. With his natural ability, his talent, his IQ, his speed, his background, he should have wiped the floor with Ramirez, and he didn't.
Yeah, regardless of the money poured into this fight and the size of the event, I thought Ramirez was always the perfect opponent for Devin Haney, because he's a credible guy, former unified champion at 140, big enough to go to 147, doesn't have a ton of power even in his best days, and was a pressure fighter that would make Devin work. And Devin kind of blew it. He really kind of blew it. I came away from that fight thinking that Devin is still very nervous about getting hit. He doesn't want to get hit. And look, no fighter, as we just discussed, wants to get hit. But you got to get hit at some point. You got to take shots. You got to stand in the pocket. You got to be able to do it. You might be able to win fights on this level, fighting that style, but at the highest level, against real punchers at welterweight, no shock. Like, could you imagine Devin Haney against Boots Ennis? Could you imagine Devin Haney even against guys like Brian Norman or
no?
I mean, like guys that can crack. Like, it's, I don't know. The style didn't. That's Devin Haney. That's kind of how Devin Haney fights, the boxing stuff. But the unwillingness, like the nervousness, the anxiousness about getting touched at all during this fight, that told me that he is still not past the Ryan Garcia fight. And we had argued about this. Like, I actually thought Devin was going to shine on Friday. I thought he was going to have a breakthrough performance. We talked about Devin Haney being all the way back. You can't watch that fight and think Devin Haney's all the way back.
No, his confidence is gone, and that's what happens when you get chin checked, so many times. Ryan Garcia took his confidence, took his swag, took that ability. We've already seen Devin Haney hurt before, all right? And this was at 135 by Linares. And whenever you get rocked, you start thinking twice about your chin. So that's when you start thinking, oh, man, if I'm moving up with a puncher, I can't get touched once because my leg's going to shake again. And then you have that in the back of your head. Fighters can't think that, man. Fighters can never go into a fight thinking about injury, thinking about their lack of conditioning. They have to be prepared to lay it all on the line in order to shine. Yes, it risks getting hit, it risks getting dropped, it risks even getting knocked out. But that's what makes you a champion. You got to have that championship mentality. Normally, this happens to older fighters in the 30s, fighters that have already been stopped more than once, fighters that have come up short, fighters that are still, hanging in there, beating younger fighters, beating older champions, but not beating the best. This guy's still the best. He's still undefeated. He's in his absolute prime, and he's already gun-shy. Devin Haney's already gun-shy at 26 years old against a inactive, slow, plodding fighter in Ramirez. That's a big red flag, and that's the reason I'm being so hard on him right now, Mannix. Yes, he won. It doesn't matter. His record is unblemished. He's undefeated. But ask any single person that's a boxing fan that has watched Devin Haney from the beginning of his career, especially to his last 2-3 fights, you're saying, that's not the same Haney. We're not watching that same Haney. We're watching someone that's been cracked, that's already shell-shocked, traumatized, and we probably won't ever see the best of it again.
Do you think he can ever get back? He still is only, 26 years old. Can he get back to being what he once was?
If he goes down in weight, which is a hard thing to do.
So you think he should go back to 140?
140, absolutely. He's not going to make 135. We've seen him struggling. He is not a plus 140 pounder. He shouldn't even fight 1 pound over 140. He's not going to hurt guys at 140.
Rehydrates to huge numbers.
That's fine. But stay at 140. You can outbox guys. You can feel good. You can feel fresh. You can out jab them. I don't care if you go unanimous decision after unanimous decision, but you're winning. You're shining. And there's a way to stay in the pocket and still not get hit. I mean, a lot of guys do that. A lot of great athletes and fighters and boxers do that. They stay in the pocket, barely make you miss, make you pay, get a little angle, pop the jab, work around the ring, plant your feet, get some respect. That's ring generalship. That's being a boxer.
Floyd Mayweather was one of the best at that in the second half
of
his
his career. He is the best at it,
Yeah.
but there's a long list of great boxers that have been Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker didn't have power, but watch Pernell Whitaker. That guy had balls. He had heart. He had a chin. He stayed in the pocket, vicious body puncher. But he had no power, but guys had to respect him. And he moved up 4 or 5 divisions. That is greatness. I'm not saying Haney can be a Whitaker, but he has the athleticism and the natural gifts to be able to do that, but he doesn't have the confidence to do that. And I don't think he's going to pick it up anytime soon.
I don't know that he can make 140 anymore. I think he's just a growing guy that kills himself to get down 240 pounds. But if he's going to stay at 147, he's got to ease his way into it. He's got to fight 2 or 3 guys in gradually increasing levels of power before he's ready to face a top guy at welterweight.
I agree. And one more thing before we move on. I took a lot of heat from a lot of Devin Haney fans, a lot of people on social media, a lot of fans actually, saying that I was hating on Devin Haney when we were promoting the lead up to this fight, when we're doing the press conferences in NYC and in Los Angeles. I was hard on Haney. The main thing I was questioning was his chin. I was saying, man, I don't know how he's going to react once he gets hit. Well, he didn't get hit, but he still reacted like he was hurt. He still reacted like he got hit, and he didn't get hit. Can you imagine once he does get clipped, Mannix, how he's going to react? If he ran from a slow plodding, inactive fighter like a Ramirez, can you just imagine what's going to happen when he does get hit in the chin? That's the reason I was so hard on him. It's not the fact that I have anything against Devin Haney. Watch the first 4 or 5 years of him on the zone. I did nothing but praise him. Sometimes overly praise him, and you would tell me after shows like, man, you're on the Devin Haney train, because I know what I was watching. This man was great, especially when he's not flowing with the jab. That's not the same fighter anymore.
Yeah, he's different. If I'm Devin, I'm getting back in the ring quickly though. Like, you got to start to get some of that confidence back, get that momentum back. It was a year out of the ring. Now he's gotten his feet wet at 147-ish, whatever he was fighting that weight at welterweight. Get back in the ring in the fall and try to rebuild some of that momentum. When he does come back, I do not think it's going to be against Ryan Garcia, who I thought had the worst night of the evening. Ryan Garcia losing a decision to Rolando Romero, unanimous decision defeat. The odds for a Rolly Romero decision, Sergio, were plus 2,000 coming into this fight. Plus 2,000 for Rolly to win by decision. We were watching in the moments before the main event started. You, me, Todd Grisham, we're sitting there like, should we put money on a first-round knockout by Ryan Garcia? Like, we were sure. We went hard on the under 6.5 rounds. And then all of a sudden, whatever Ryan Garcia was last year, whatever version of him that was aggressive, throwing punches, going after Devin Haney, that guy was gone. It was a tentative, jabbing, unwilling to engage fighter. What the hell happened to Ryan Garcia?
Should I be politically incorrect?
I think you're the fighter. Speak your mind.
Or should I be the fighter? What did Ryan Garcia get suspended for a year, Chris Mannix?
He was suspended for testing positive for Ostarine.
Okay, so that's a performance enhanced drug, right? So he didn't have enhanced performance this time around. He had no confidence. He had no chin. He wasn't the same fighter, man. There's a lot of suspicions out there, and Ryan didn't prove anyone wrong, man. He had no confidence, and him getting dropped so early reminded me of that Luke Campbell fight when he got dropped by that same left hand, right? But Luke Campbell's a southpaw, so it was his strong hand. So he got dropped. What happened after that? Luke Campbell got knocked out by a body shot. Ryan Garcia got up with mean intentions, with confidence, with swag, and he beat the hell out of Campbell in one of the knockouts of the year. This time around, he gets dropped by Rolly Romero, and he gets on his bike. All of a sudden, he's not throwing his jab. All of a sudden, that check left hook is not the same. He's getting out-hooked by Romero, who's not the same vicious, lethal left hooker as Ryan Garcia. So many questions to be answered here, but I'm going to be pointing fingers at Team Garcia for what happened. Was it the change of trainers? Was it the change in strategy? Was it the inactivity? Or was it the fact that a lot of people are saying this is not the same fighter without the things that he has in his system? Whatever the question is, whatever the red flag is, and there's a lot of them, Ryan Garcia didn't make a case for himself, man. He regressed in what he should have done. He should have shut a lot of people up with a statement win, and he did the opposite. He just raised more questions.
I want to start my comments by giving credit to Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero, in recent fights, really since the Gervonta Davis fight, has looked like trash. Like, he has looked awful. He got a gift of a world title decision win against Ismael Barroso. He got knocked silly by Isaac Cruz. And then in his last fight with Manuel James, yeah, he won, but he didn't look good in that fight either. Like, there was no reason to believe coming into this fight that outside of one lucky from the gods punch that Rolly Romero was going to win. But he went out there and fought the most disciplined fight I've seen Rolly ever fight. Watch him during that fight, Sergio. His right hand might as well have been stitched to his chin. Like, he and his trainer, Ismael Salas, did what Devin Haney didn't do a year ago and made sure that Rolly protected that chin with that right hand all night long. You know, you notice the knockdown that he picked up, left hook, because the right hand was, attached with super glue to that chin. And that took away Ryan Garcia's best weapon early on. He could never quite figure out how to adapt to it. On Ryan's part, someday he's going to stop getting hit by left hooks, right? I know that the Luke Campbell left hook was a southpaw shot, and the southpaws that he's faced have tried to throw that sweeping left hook every single time. But Ryan does the same things when someone comes at him with that left hand. He pulls back, and he drops his right hand every single time. Every single time. We saw it against Devin Haney. Devin Haney hit him with a good shot, and it was because Ryan pulled back and dropped his hand. And that is going to get you in trouble every single time. It is a bad habit that Ryan Garcia simply cannot shake. Now, I don't know what went into the tentativeness he had during this fight. Personality-wise, he was very different in the build of this fight than he was during the last one. He was obviously going through some stuff last year, dealing with some family stuff, some life stuff, some medical stuff, whatever. He was dealing with a ton of stuff. This week, it was the Ryan Garcia we're used to seeing, calm, composed, all that stuff. But then when he got into the ring, he was a completely different fighter. He could not let his hands go. And even when he knew that this fight was on the line in the final three rounds, and he knew it, his trainer knew it, his father knew it, his brother knew it, he didn't go for it. Like, that was shocking to me, Sergio, that considering the stakes and what was on the line, the kind of payday that was on the line for him at the end if he had won that fight, to not go for it in the final few rounds against a guy that can be knocked out, has been knocked out twice, could have been knocked out by Barroso in that fight. He doesn't go for it. That was astonishing to me, Sergio. Like, just him not having kind of that next gear to go for it in the championship rounds.
Because when you get knocked out on the biggest stage possible, something gets taken out of you. And only great fighters, and I say this all the time on air and with you guys, only great fighters come back from big knockouts. Ryan Garcia got knocked out and beat up and dropped by Tank Davis. And after that, you've seen him kind of not having confidence in himself. When he came back against Oscar Duarte, we've seen flashes of that. We've seen flashes of that ugly shoulder roll for one, but he didn't have the same swag. He caught Oscar Duarte coming in an exchange. That's how I thought he was going to knock out Rolly Romero, in an exchange, because he has the slightly better technique. And I'll get to the bad technique and the chin in the air after this statement. He had to take a chance against Rolly Romero on the inside. He kept trying to catch Romero on the outside, and it was Romero who has the winging, ugly left hook. When you see Rolly Romero shadow box, it's ugly, man. It's ugly, especially when he throws that weird wide left hook. I'm like, oh my God, this guy looks like a novice, but he's so strong. He's so experienced now. He's tough. He definitely has confidence in himself, and he was able to catch a guy with bad technique with an early shot and then stayed on him. Ryan Garcia has always been hit with those shots. It's just he's had that invincibility to him. He's had that mentality of like, no matter how many times I get hit, it's only going to take one shot and I got you. And it's true. The kid's always gotten away with it his entire career, amateurs and professionals. Now he's dealing with some pushback, by these guys that have already been there. I've already been dropped. I've been knocked out. I've been on the big stage. I know what this is like. And he doesn't like that feeling. Ryan Garcia, and I've said this to you plenty of times, is one of these fighters that's never going to win a world championship. How many times have I told you that already?
Rolly won a world championship. I mean, wins 4 titles.
I'm saying Ryan Garcia.
I know, but I'm just saying there's 4 titles in each weight class.
And I'm telling you right now, I don't think
technically that was a world championship fight. Thank you to your boy Gilberto with the WBA.
All right, but I've been saying this for years. Ryan Garcia is one of the most successful, well-paid, popular fighters that I don't think picks up a world championship. I think we saw the best of Ryan Garcia already. I think he hit his peak and he's on his decline, and that's so. I
don't know if we can say
that's
that.
so hard to say, man.
That.
At 26 years old,
what now? 2 losses on his resume. The question is, can he get back to being the guy that we saw against Devin?
I just answered that.
But but I don't know if I agree with you. Is what I'm saying. I think, look, there's a lot of things that went into this fight. Could it have been the performance enhancers? Yes. Could it have been the shift in mindset, the shift in kind of the personality he had going into that fight? Yes. Also, and Ryan kind of touched on this, and I do tend to agree there's something to it. Like the layoff, yes. But like last year was awful for him. Like self-inflicted. A lot of those wounds were self-inflicted on his part.
Well, then so what? No one to blame but himself.
I'm just saying that could have taken something out of him.
Well, it happens to every fighter. Self-destruction. Okay, look, hold on.
I'm not saying. Hold on. And I'm not saying that can be fine to excuse for this performance. I'm just saying at his age, with the runway that he has, and because his popularity will open a lot of doors for him, he's going to get opportunities. And I think that there's a middle ground between being the guy that was in the ring against Devin Haney last year and the guy we saw against Rolly Romero.
Look, man, this is also what happens when a 24, 25-year-old kid gets tens of millions of dollars. That much attention, that much money. Millions of dollars makes you less of a hungry fighter, okay? Only special fighters still get up. Floyd Mayweather Jr., Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Ray Leonard. These guys still get up for those prize fighting because they had ego, they had pride, they had a chip on their shoulder. No matter how rich they got, money came second to whipping the dude's ass that's in front of you. That's hunger you can't teach. That's something that Ryan Garcia...
A heart, kind of. I mean,
that's something Ryan Garcia has shown in spots, but hasn't shown on the championship level. Well, because he hasn't really faced the champion. And when he does, Tank Davis is the only one that I can really compare him to. Javier Fortuna was a former champion, but has been beaten before. On the top stage with the top dogs, I just don't see Ryan Garcia beating any of those guys at 135 or 140 or 147. I'm talking about the last 5 years. So I just think we already seen the zenith of Ryan Garcia's career, and I think it's a slow demise from here on.
He's another guy, just like Devin Haney. Like that fight turned out to be a disaster for both of them. Like what did that moment look like? The crowning achievement of Ryan Garcia's career, and like and everybody being excited about a rematch. I mean, that turned out to be a catastrophe for both these guys.
Let me stand up for Ryan here, all right? Because I hate just
hit him like a million times.
Yeah, well, let me just say one positive thing. Just come back. Ryan Garcia, since he was the biggest star on the card, all right? He's the one that caught the most attention. That's why he was the main event. It's hard to get away from your element, your atmosphere, all your fans, the music, the sound, the electricity, the fight week. He didn't have none of that. He was outdoors with about 50 people, 100 people out there. There was no shine. There was no feeling. There was no bolt of adrenaline that hits you in the body. Fighters live for that, man. Fighters get addicted to that. If all of a sudden you get that taken away from you, you're a normal fighter in a gym having a bad night sparring. It was a sparring session. And that's what cost him. He wasn't sharp. He didn't have that edge, that little fear that every fighter has in the back of his head saying, oh man, this guy could hurt me. I better be on my P's and Q's. I better be sharp. I can't be, you're always going to be on. Ryan Garcia was too relaxed and he didn't have the moment. He didn't have that stage that he needed.
I do think that's interesting. And I do think there's something to that the energy can have an impact one way or another on the fighter. And Ryan is, to your point, the last 5 years, he's been fighting in front of big crowds. Mm-hmm. Remember that fight card against Francisco Fonseca in Anaheim? He had 14,000 fans on a Friday in Anaheim. That's legitimate. Fights Tank Davis, sold out house. Even the Luke Campbell fight during the post-pandemic, good crowd in Texas. Duarte, he's used to fighting in front of high energy crowds. And look, I commend the people involved for thinking outside the box and doing an event in Times Square. It's certainly the optics of everything around the ring look pretty cool, but it doesn't bring the same vibe. It doesn't bring that same atmosphere. You just can't, no matter how many people are milling around the ring in Times Square, you cannot duplicate a sold-out crowd at Madison Square Garden. You cannot duplicate a packed house at T-Mobile Arena or at Crypto.com Arena in LA. It just brings a different level. And you've done ring walks. You've been in these big buildings. I would imagine that during those ring walks, when you're feeling that energy, that gives you something. There's a little bit of boost there.
Let me tell you something. Everyone will criticize my career, but I've been Caesar's Palace. I came out to a packed house that was electric and nothing but celebrities on network television, seen by 11 million people. That's electricity. I fought Staples Center, Shane Mosley, 12,000 people. Great electricity. I fought MGM, Vernon Forest. I mean, all the big stadiums or all the big venues, I fought in them. I know what that feeling is like. Even if I was a semi-main event or on the undercard, it feels great. Now, let me tell you the flip side of that. I fought outdoors at the Home Depot Center on Carson. I got a draw. It was a terrible feeling. I hated it. I fought outdoors in an Arizona show. Terrible feeling. I was freezing. It was cold. I hated fighting outdoors. It's not the same. And especially in the daytime, that's a double wham. And especially if you're going through personal issues, man, I can only imagine. These are all valid excuses I'm making for Ryan Garcia, but still, it doesn't take away from the fact that he still is not confident in himself, and he's still bouncing from trainer to trainer to trainer when he should have just stayed with the one that he had the most success with, Eddie Reynoso. 5 wins, 5 knockouts. Why the hell do you leave perfection?
Well, I give him credit for going back to Reynoso. I think one of the reasons he didn't work with Reynoso for the duration of this fight is partly because Eddie has Canelo, and he was going over to Riyadh weeks early, partly because they were training, I think, in Lake Tahoe, and Ryan was down in Southern California. I do think that once things get back to normal, when Canelo returns to the U.S. and starts prepping for his next fight, I would love to see Ryan with Team Canelo. I agree with you. That's when he's at his best. 5-0, 5 knockouts. Get back to that situation and be there. I think we can safely say that Haney-Garcia 2 is now should not happen, right? We don't need to see that at the moment.
No way, man. And it's sad to say because that was one of the best fights of the year. I love calling that fight, man. Me and Grisham still talk about it. Unless they come back and get a fantastic early round knockout, both of them, it ain't gonna happen because Haney doesn't knock anyone out. Yeah, people aren't salivating for it no more. We're already seeing the slow decline of both fighters, and they're barely 26 years old, man. It's incredible. But that's what happens when you have personal issues, personal demons, and lose by knockout like Ryan, and then get beat on the biggest stage possible, knockdown after knockdown, meme after meme, criticized by everyone, and then have to come back and have to prove a point to everybody, and you don't. Oh man, that sticks to your ego and your confidence. Yeah, these guys aren't fighting again.
I think they will someday.
It won't be the same.
Never know.
It won't
Never
be the
know.
same.
If they get their mojo back in 2026, early 2027, maybe late next year, we could see that. We could see that happen. But they do both have a long way to go before it becomes relevant again. All right, when we come back, we will talk about the Canelo Alvarez William School headline card. All right, Sergio, it is 8:30 a.m. local time. We are back. We just watched the card headlined by Canelo Alvarez and William School. Canelo wins a unanimous decision. And I'll just start this off by saying that was among the worst championship-level fights that I've seen. I don't think it was quite as bad. It wasn't quite as bad as Canelo against Jermell Charlo. That was an obvious shutout, close to shutout, however you looked at it. This was not a shutout, but at no point in time did I think that William School was in a position to win the fight, nor did I think that his main objective was to win the fight. I think, like I thought coming in, that his main objective was to go 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez. So, mission accomplished, William School. You did that, but you did not bring it in your first and probably only attempt to win a fight of this magnitude. So, your thoughts on what we saw between Canelo and William School?
Well, you described it perfect already. I mean, that's what you are. You're good with words. You're a writer. And you pretty much already, everything that I was thinking without the bad words and the frustration. And I'm disappointed. You know, whenever you're a champion like William School is, undefeated, he's getting paid a couple $1 million. He's on the biggest possible stage, foreign country, in front of a man that's investing hundreds of millions of dollars in this sport that we love. You got to show up, man. This is a chance to become undisputed, all the belts on the line. You got to at least try to find a way to win rounds. Now, he obviously won rounds with 2 judges. But
to be clear, let me just give the scores. Let me give the scores.
Okay.
119-109, which was in line with how you and I saw the fight. I scored at 10-2, which would be 118-110. One judge had 116-112. In between, closer to how I saw the fight, one judge had it 115-113, which is 7-5 for Canelo. That, to me, was a outlier of a scorecard.
And that justifies all the skull heads, like you like to call them, all the school heads. They got to go back to school. They don't know what the hell they're watching. Look, I made a career out of being a boxer, sticking and moving, not getting hit. But man, I fought on the inside. I took chances. I didn't have the size advantage that School has. I don't have the strength and the long reach that he has. He was athletic. I give him that. Look, I told you he was going to have to be cute and frustrate and jab and throw the 1-2, not engage with Canelo. I said all this on the prior podcast. He did that, but he moved way too much. He wasn't even boxing. He was running. He was running sideways, laterally, and he wasn't throwing more than 2 shots, and it was always countering. So he was never trying to control the round. It was always a reactive, reacting off of what Canelo did. And Canelo was taking what he was getting. Whatever School was giving him, it was the body. The body is what won this fight for Canelo. It was over 50% the body shots landed. That's where he won the fight. Now, if he didn't land those body shots, then Canelo didn't really deserve to win this fight convincingly either. But those body shots are what swayed it. And round after round, I kept saying, look, nobody really deserves this round, but that body shot just won the round. Whenever someone is just throwing 20 punches in a round and only landing 2 or 3, one good body shot is going to steal the other movement, the other boxing that School was doing. It was just a hideous fight, man. And I'm sorry to all the skullheads over there, but the inner Larry Merchant came out of me. The frustration came out of me. I didn't know how to react. The crowd was booing. I've never seen that type of fight. I had never seen that type of fight in my boxing career so far.
So let me throw some of the statistics at you. The 445 punches thrown were the fewest in a 12-round fight in CompuBox history. Canelo landed 5 of 13 punches per round. School landed 5 of 24. Canelo, as you alluded to earlier, had a 48-28 edge in power landed 50% of his power shots. The raw numbers on punches thrown, William School threw 293 punches to Canelo's 152, but Canelo still outlanded him 56 to 55. Canelo landed 37% of his total punches. School landed 19%. Let's address the difference of opinion. I think most people that I've seen and have texted me after the fight thought Canelo did more than enough to win wide. But there are people out there that had that fight close, that had it, 115, 113-ish, 116 to 112. What do you think that they were seeing that you and I were not seeing?
Are they credible sources?
They're credible. They're reporters, fighters. Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs, we'll give him credit. He was saying it was closer. Like, Daniel Jacobs was seeing the same fight as the judge scored at 115, 113. You and I were seeing the same fight as the judge scored at 119, 109. And the guy in the middle was seeing a little bit of both. So, we obviously listened to Danny during the broadcast. We talked to him on the car ride back, and I've seen some of the School reaction. The School reaction is like, hey, he's sticking and moving. Shakur Stevenson, I don't know if you saw his tweet. He said something to the effect of, hey, I know it looks like he's running, but if School was the A side of this fight, we'd be talking about him delivering a brilliant performance.
Wrong. Shakur Stevenson is somebody that boxes similar in that Cuban style, but at least he lands shots more cleanly. He dominates more proficiently. He sometimes gets accused of running, but most of the time he's boxing, and he's landing clean shots. There's no way that you could say that when Shakur's in a fight, that even in a close fight that he's losing. Erislan de Lara was a Cuban style that I appreciated. I thought he could have beat Canelo. It should have been at least a draw. So I'm not hating against the Cuban style. Rigondeaux, when so many people would shit on Guillermo Rigondeaux, I appreciated him because he controlled with jabs. He landed jabs. He was brilliant to watch in and out, getting angles, doing the defense, getting low on one knee, Pernell Whitaker style. I appreciate stuff like that, man. I'm not gonna be a hater to the sweet science. This was not the sweet science. I'm gonna die on this hill, Chris Mannix. This was a man running. He was not controlling. He was not being a ring general. He wasn't landing the punches. The 293 punches that you say William School threw were on the... Yes, he threw them, but he didn't land them. They were landing on gloves. Some computers, some judges count that. I do not. I rather one clean shot that lands, that jars the head back, instead of a guy that threw 5 hard jabs that landed on the gloves. I rather count the one. That's the way I judge jabs being landed. School was jabbing to the body early in the fight. I credit him for that. I'm like, all right, I want to see more of that. He stopped doing that. Once Canelo started breaking the distance, listening to his corner, landing those body shots, School went away from jabbing to the body because he didn't want to bend low and get to Canelo's level for Canelo could counter him. Canelo was little by little catching up to Scull's shenanigans. But what did Scull do from there? He turned it to another gear of running laterally, boxing, running, jogging. He was moving laterally. In and out is when you're boxing, popping, jumping in, jumping out, getting an angle. That's what Rigondeaux did. That's what Lara did. This man will pop, get on his bike, waste 15, 20 seconds, pop again, waste 15, 20 seconds. That's not the sweet science, man. What we saw is not the sweet science. It is not. And I just, the frustration in my voice carried from the broadcast to now. And I cannot understand what other people saw.
I don't either. I guess if you like the activity, but sitting ringside, Canelo blocked a ton of those jabs, deflected many of those power shots. That's what we saw. That's what the CompuBox numbers indicated. Canelo has always been a high-level defensive fighter. What William Scull did to me was implement a game plan that would not get him stopped. It was not a game plan that was going to win him the fight. Look, that's now the second Cuban that Canelo has fought that has given him a boatload of problems. And Canelo has said often that he doesn't like fighting these types of guys, and this is among the reasons why. I don't, to take it a little bit further, Sergio, I don't think that was an outstanding performance by Canelo either. Like, would Canelo from 2020 or 21 have found a way to track down William Scull? I think absolutely. I think
Not at 168.
I don't know. I think that
Not at 168.
well, he was at 168 though.
Yeah, but he's a smaller man going up, Mannix. That's
Well,
why he's not knocking
look, but I'm
guys
just
out
saying,
anymore.
during that period I'm talking about, he beat all the top guys at once, all the belt holders at 160. No, at 168. Callum Smith. He beat Caleb Plant. He beat throw Avni Yildirim in that list, I guess. But he beat all the top guys, belt holders, at 168. I think that version of Canelo would have found a way to track down William Scull. So I think we may have. Here's my. I think we've seen degrees of decline, right? Canelo from 2018 to the end of 2021 when he stopped Caleb Plant. That was peak Canelo to me. That was him at his very best. Since the Bivol fight, where he's gone on this long run of no knockouts, he's been a more judicious puncher, focused more on accuracy, slowed down. I think this was a fight that maybe we saw another drop. Not a big drop, but a slight drop in Canelo Alvarez, because I believe another version of him would have made it more definitive if it wasn't already.
I gotta disagree. It's hard to track down a track star, a guy that doesn't want to engage, a guy that is athletically gifted, that is naturally strong and long. Scull had inches on him, 2 in reach, 4 in height, and add the speed of the footwork and add that Cuban background, add the IQ he has. This is a smart fighter in Scull. I'm not going to deny his skill. I'm not going to deny his ability. I'm not a hater against that style. I appreciate hit and not get hit style, but he wasn't hitting. He was just not getting hit. And then when he did land a shot, it was usually an uppercut or a glancing right hand. I gave him credit for it, but it was too far in between because there was more moving than punching. That's when you start getting aggravated at this, because then he's not boxing. He's not controlling the rhythm of the fight. I go back to Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker wasn't a knockout puncher, but he had one of the greatest jabs any boxer could have, and he popped guys with that jab, and he hurt them to the body. He got respect out of tough Mexicans like Chavez. He fought some of the greatest fighters, even when he was old, facing guys like Felix Trinidad, still gave him hell. Why? Because he knew how to fight on the inside, knew how to get the respect. Took a big punch. That's another thing Pernell Whitaker had. Took a big punch. So don't give me that bullshit that the sweet science has to just be moving laterally like that. It's not. There's a difference between boxing, the sweet science, and a guy that just came to pick up a paycheck and doesn't care about getting booed out of the arena because he's gonna ignorantly believe himself and smile just because he's not getting hit and he's not getting overwhelmed and he's not getting knocked out. That is a win for guys like William School, but it's a loss for everyone watching. It's a loss for everyone that paid for it, and it's a loss, and it's really a loss back-to-back nights for boxing. What fight was worse, the Haney fight or this fight? To you, Mannix.
Tough call.
Yeah, right?
Tough call.
Both of them broke records of not throwing punches. So what fight was worse, Haney-Ramirez from Friday or William School and the great Canelo?
I think this was worse because I expected maybe something to happen. Like I predicted before Haney-Ramirez started that it would be a lopsided decision for Devin Haney. We can parse how it played out. Say Devin didn't look usual. We already talked about that. I thought Canelo would find a way with the body work. You know, I'll give William School this. He was in shape and he moved really well and didn't seem to tire at any point. The showmanship was a lot. Like, I don't know, were people watching that? Like, all of his antics in the ring, acting like he was doing something?
When you say people, who are you talking about?
Well, no, the social media people.
Okay, name
no,
one
but again,
credible-
Danny's another one. Like, Danny had it close.
Yeah, but see, you got to remember, Danny was in a close fight with Canelo as well.
Yeah.
You know, so he has a little chip on his shoulder saying that he deserved more credit. He should have been doing this and doing that. But Jacobs wasn't really landing on Canelo either. If you remember, that's when Canelo showed his brilliant head movement and coming forward. Jacobs had his moments, but Jacobs also had his moments against Golovkin. Just because you have your moments against monsters doesn't make you a monster. He competed, but he didn't come close to beating these guys. So I understand where Daniel Jacobs from, but give me another credible source, another outside of Shakur, of course, that has given Williams School some credit. And then I'll start.
I mean, I guess it is just social media. I see some people with their scorecards that are close. I'm just telling you, sitting ringside, he didn't do anything. He did, and go watch back some of the shots that he was allegedly landing. They weren't. We saw it. CompuBox saw it. You know, he doubled up Canelo's punch output, or close to it, I guess, whatever it is, and still managed to land fewer punches. And Canelo landed the heavier shots. The body attack was outstanding. That's too strong. It was not. It was good, very good in spurts. I'd like to have seen him double up on some of those body shots. But again, School was in shape. Like, he was there for a track meet. Like, he was on the move.
Not only that, but here's the thing. And School was countering with that uppercut, so he couldn't double up on the body shots. Canelo won because he wasn't quick enough to do it. You know, he, like you said, he lost the step. He wasn't quick enough to double up on the body shots, and the size of School, he wasn't really feeling the impact like normal Canelo opponents feel the impact when he digs down to the body. He was landing clean shots. They weren't partially blocked. They were clean shots of the body. School, because of his size, he was, size and the fact that he's a naturally bigger guy, fought at 168 a little longer, or in the high 160s a little longer. He was able to take those punches from a guy coming up from, 150 or 140s or whatever it is in Canelo. This version of Canelo wasn't going to hurt a natural big man. That's the reason Canelo is not hurting these natural, bigger, younger fighters, because he's not a natural 168 pounder.
All right, so good segue. For his next fight, he's not going to fight a naturally bigger, younger fighter.
Thank goodness.
He is now officially set to face Terrence Crawford. September 12th is the date that was announced by Turki Al-Sheikh. I believe he was referring to Allegiant Stadium. I think either he said he was referring to it in Vegas. That's the Raiders Stadium, which would be massive,
incredible,
monstrous event. Canelo, last time we saw him at a stadium, he put 70+ thousand in AT&T Stadium in Dallas during the pandemic, which was one of the most remarkable shows of loyalty by his fans that I've ever seen.
I'll give you better loyalty on the stadium. How about in Miami when he fought Avni Yildirim? He filled the stadium.
But that was even deeper. I don't think he filled the thing.
Well, he didn't
that
fill
was
it, but it
really
was
in the
still
pandemic.
great.
If they ever had to do like an outdoor, because Florida was like the only place that was open at that point.
It was still a lot of people there.
Look, it was good. It was good. I thought Texas was even better. Like, that was one of the better atmospheres I've ever experienced, and that was, again, during a pandemic. This fight with Crawford, September 12th. Crawford has fought one time above 147. That was his win a year ago against Israel Madrimov. Has elected to take the year off, not test himself at 168. He is, I believe, 37 right now, so a few years older than Canelo Alvarez. You saw them toe-to-toe, Sergio. No surprise, once again, a taller, probably, I think, longer opponent. in Terrence Crawford. Handicap that matchup for me. Do you think that is a competitive fight?
Oh, absolutely. You hear it all the time that a great big man will beat a great small man. But if that small man is Terrence Crawford, then he's not a small man. Because if you look at how Crawford has bulked up, he looks like a junior middleweight. He looks like a middleweight. We saw him right now eating breakfast. I went up to him. I gave him a hug.
Yeah, because he went after you last time. That's why he gave him a hug.
Yeah,
you don't want no problems.
I want to keep the peace with Bud. But no, man, I'm actually still sizing him up, and he got a little bit bigger from last time. A little chest bigger, shoulders bigger. He's working on his frame, man. He's not going to be the much smaller fighter. Now, I think Canelo will still be the favorite. Canelo, even at this point of his career, will still be the favorite because he'll be the slightly younger fighter. I mean, Crawford's going to be 38 by the time they fight in September. There's a limit to greatness, and I think Crawford, we haven't seen him slow down because Madrimov is the real deal. I don't think that was a slowdown. It was a close fight, but that wasn't a knock on Crawford. So he's bound to slow down, and maybe it's against Canelo in September. We know Canelo's slowing down, but he's still a big, explosive fighter.
Yeah, I favor Canelo, and while I don't believe that Terrence is going to run, no chance of that.
No way.
I also don't believe that he's going to let his hands go like he did 2 fights early against Errol Spence. The signature performance of Terrence Crawford's career came less than 2 years ago when he beat Errol Spence to become undisputed at 147. The Crawford, Sergio, that I saw at 154 was not as eager to engage with the naturally bigger Israel Madrimov. Still won. Still is a legit champion at 154. But as I think about this fight, I mean, he's still now going up what is really 3 weight classes. Like, he has 1 fight at junior middleweight. He is a longtime welterweight jumping up to fight one of the great super middleweights, not of all time, but of the last 40 years, I guess. A guy that now is officially 10-0 at super middleweight, who has not really been threatened legitimately at super middleweight. Yes, he's a step slower, but he still comes into fights with great game plans. He has a ring IQ that will match Terrence Crawford's. He's going to be 2 of the smartest guys we've seen in the ring in a long time. And he's got more power. So I'm just, when I think about this fight, I think, are we going to see Crawford let his hands go, throw that right hand? Because, and I feel like a broken record sometimes saying this, you can't beat Canelo just jabbing your way into it. We've seen so many guys try to do it. And William School tried to do it too. He tried to pitter-patter his way to success. I wonder if he'll let it go, because when you let that right hand go, that's when you put yourself in danger of counter shots. And even if Canelo's feet are slowing down, the hand speed is still there, I think.
The explosiveness is still there, but you have to stand in front of him. And like we saw tonight, and like we've been seeing with Canelo, if you move, he can't really let loose of those shots. He needs you to be against the ropes, stand still, or engage with him. But when you're sticking and moving, he can only unleash 1 shot at a time, especially now. Crawford doesn't run. Crawford pot shots you from that southpawing. I think he fights better from southpaw than he does orthodox. But can you imagine straight left hand just breaking the guard of Canelo, then popping him around the guard with a right hook, dipping the counter, and then moving, then turning orthodox and then popping him with that jab from that orthodox stance? Crawford's going to be a wild puzzle for Canelo to solve. Now, ultimately, his size would start breaking down Crawford, but it's still going to be a fantastic fight, and I don't put it past Crawford to do something great, man. I really don't. If
anyone was going to do it, it's going to be him, because he is an all-time great. Canelo, and I said this on the air at the very end. Good on Bud for attempting this. Yes, he's getting a bag, like he's getting a big bag, but he very easily could have continued on at 54, fought some lesser fights, retired with an undefeated record. Instead, he's rolling the dice. He's getting in with the king right now, clearly the king of 168, and he's putting it on the line. I give him a ton of credit for doing that.
Yeah, and it's a win-win for him because even if he loses, it's like, all right, I attempted greatness, and we see it all the time nowadays when in catch weights. When a smaller fighter moves up and then it didn't work out for them, it's like, well, he was too small. I think Mikey Garcia when he moved up to fight Errol Spence, sounded great, but Mikey was coming for 135. He attempted greatness. It was a one-sided fight. Yes, can that possibly happen here with Crawford? Maybe. I highly doubt it. Crawford's a different animal. And like we just clearly seen right now in the lobby, he's a big animal. He's strong. He's long. He's smart. And he's confident. So the fight's going to be great, man. The fight's going to be great. But it's not going to be a sprint, a track race, a track meet like we saw today.
Chess match. Be a chess match, I think. I don't look. It's not going to be
a power
Gotti
chess
Ward.
match. It'll be a power chess match.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good fight. And I think it's going to be competitive. I'm still leaning towards Canelo. I think the better big man beats the better small man in a fight like that. But I'm excited for it. September 12th, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Let's run through some of the fights we called on the undercard. Co-main event, Badu Jack, Noel Mikhailian. Competitive fight. I actually had Mikhailian edging it. I gave him Mikhailian 115, 113.
You did. I saw your scorecard. You saw mine.
I thought his activity was a bit of a difference maker. It wasn't a hugely... It could have gone either way. But Bakole outthrew Badu Jack by close to 200 pounds, 200 punches. Outlanded him by, I think, around 50 punches. And Badu Jack had some good moments. But I thought Mikhailian did enough to win. What did you think?
Well, you saw my scorecard. I gave it to a Jack by 1, and you had Mikhailian by 1, 7-5. I just thought Badu Jack... Yeah, Mikhailian had his moments. I think he landed really clean shots. And when he was in control, especially with that right hand. But I think Badu managed the clock better. He threw the cleaner. I think he had the better body language. I know that sounds weird, but both of them were getting hit with similar shots, but Badu was reacting better. On the inside, it looked like Mikhailian wanted to hold while Jack wanted to break free and punch with one hand. Judges take notice of that. It's like one guy's trying to push the fight, one guy's trying to kill the clock. So that's the difference there. Body language is a lot, man. And I think Badu Jack, that championship experience and the fact that he's been in so many freaking close fights, this is another one. He knows how to handle close fights. He does just enough to say, okay, I know I got hit with 2 shots, but I'm going to wait until the last 10 seconds. I'm going to hit 2 shots to the body and 1 upstairs. And visibly, what's that word when you look at something? Visually, not visually, aesthetically. Aesthetically, it looks better. Badu Jack learned how to manage the clock, aesthetically land the cleaner shots that visible to the judges, and he keeps the fight in the middle of the ring. He doesn't do it by holding against the ropes and in a matter where Mikhailian, who's already lost his 3rd close competitive fight that could have gone his way. That's just what's going to continue happening with guys like that. And Badu Jack squeaked one out at 41 years old because of experience. Old dog and his old tricks came through.
Good for Badu Jack. 2-year layoff, 41 years old, gets another big win, keeps his career moving. I would assume there'll be attempts to do a unification fight. I don't like his chances against Zurdo Ramirez. I don't like his chances against Jai Apataya, but he should get another payday out of it because he bounced back and got a win there. Jaime Munguia, fight before that, gets his revenge, beats Bruno Saras by a unanimous decision. A very different version of Jaime Munguia, Sergio. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that he got knocked out in his last fight, which can change guys. Some of that, I'm sure, has to do with the presence of Eddie Reynoso, the new trainer in his corner, who really instilled a level of discipline in Munguia that we haven't seen up until this point. But I thought that was a graded B+ level performance from Jaime Munguia, beating an opponent that had knocked him out 5.5 months earlier. What did you think of Munguia's effort tonight?
I was impressed. I was impressed because he followed directions. We've seen Munguia be admonished by Freddie Roach, admonished by Eric Morales, and we've seen him almost get scolded in the same way by Eddie Reynoso, but he did it in a listen to me way, not in an angry way. And every every time he went in the corner, in the beginning of the round, the neutral corner, and at the end of that minute rest, he kept repeating himself. Hands up, check your defense, move your waist. Every round for 12 rounds, that's what Reynoso was telling Munguia. Hands up, move your waist, get fluid, break the rhythm. Like that's it. It wasn't offense. It wasn't, offensive bang the body. It wasn't throw more right hands, attack here. No. It wasn't attack. It was defense, because that's Munguia's flaw. The fact that he is such he just goes looking for punches, man. He doesn't care about getting hit. He made a career taking 2 punches to land one good one. He breaks fighters down that way because he's always been a big, strong kid that can take a big punch. That's not the case anymore. He shouldn't be relying on that big punch because it got cracked already. So he can't rely on it anymore. Eddie Reynoso knows this. So I think it was smart, and he followed direction, and I needed to see that.
Yeah, I don't. It was a good win, and it was what Munguia needed, because 2 straight losses to Bruno Saras would have been disastrous for him. I still look at him as being the guy everybody wants to fight at 168, because he's popular and he's vulnerable. Bruno Saras, fair play, got the knockout in December, but has only 5 KOs on his resume. We're talking now about putting Munguia in with Edgar Berlanga, with Caleb Plant. He's talking about, right. He's talking about those fights. Diego Pacheco is out there. Christian Mbili is out there. Munguia's top-rank affiliated, so Mbili, that certainly could be on the horizon for Munguia. I didn't walk away from that fight thinking like I now favor Munguia in any of those fights, because I still think he gets hit too much, and if he gets clipped like that by Saras, and he's so leery of getting clipped like that by Saras, what happens if? I mean, Pacheco, I think, is a bad fight for him. Very bad fight.
Out of all those fights, I think I would favor him only against Berlanga. The rest, I would have to favor, Plant and Billy. But I hope he doesn't fight Billy, because at this point of his career, now that he is vulnerable and susceptible to getting knocked out, why do you want to get knocked out by Christian and Billy?
Not enough money in that fight.
Not enough money. So at least cash out if you're going to do that. Caleb Plant. We know he's always in great fights. He's an awesome boxer, championship level, and he always comes with a game plan. That would be a good risk for Munguia. But I think the one that makes sense the most is the winner of Shiraz and Berlanga. That's the one that I think makes the most sense.
Yeah, especially if it's Berlanga. Mexico versus Puerto Rico, natural rivalry. Berlanga talks a lot. Munguia doesn't really talk at all. But there's a connection. Berlanga fought Canelo. Team Canelo would be involved. I think that's the popular fight to make. And look, let's be real. Caleb Plant seems like he's going to be tied up for the next 8 to 12 months. Jamal Charlo on his radar for later this year. Yeah, I hope that Berlanga and Munguia, if Berlanga comes out of this Hamza Shiraz fight, which is a tough fight for him, but if he comes out of that fight unscathed with that one. All right, last one, the heavyweight fight. And this was... I didn't agree with the decision on this fight. Martin Bakole against F.A. Ajagba winds up being a majority draw. 2 judges scoring it 114. I don't know, man. Martin Bakole had his moments, and he hurt Ajagba a couple of times. Did well when he had him backed against the ropes. But I thought for at least 6 of the rounds, F.A. Ajagba's boxing carried the round. I thought he came in with a masterful game plan. A lot of people, myself included, probably you, thought these 2 guys were going to bang it out. How we were going to get a fight that ended inside 5 rounds. Ajagba didn't come for that. Ajagba came to stick and move, to take advantage of his fluidity in the ring. He was 60 pounds lighter than Martin Bakole in this fight, and I thought he did enough. And 2 of the judges disagreed. They give it a draw. Your thoughts on this fight?
No, I think on the broadcast, I haven't heard it back, but I think I was clearly on Ajagba's side. I thought he boxed nicely. He landed clean shots. He was able to control Bakole. Always kept the range, kept the distance, even against the ropes when he got comfortable and Bakole started throwing those big punches that normally breaks down opponents. He was catching and countering because he already felt the power and the size, and he was comfortable staying there. Now, sometimes the later the fight got, he stayed there a little bit too long. Then Bakole started having success and breaking through that guard, and then he started hurting Ajagba. Bakole won a few rounds, but he didn't win the fight. He did not win the fight. And I think every time Ajagba went to the corner, they were letting Ajagba know, you're winning this fight, just don't get lazy. That's all they're saying. You're winning the fight, don't get lazy. And it's true, because he was getting lazy against the ropes, especially later in that fight. But I don't see what judges were giving Bakole. He was slow. He was plotting. Definitely the first 6, 7, maybe even 8 rounds of the fight. Yes, towards the last part of the last 4 rounds, maybe 5, Bakole landed some good shots, some shots that were turning the tide, that were getting the excitement going. But Ajagba was still landing his own as well. Good fight, clear winner. I think Ajagba got jobbed right there. Bakole, maybe they threw him a bone for saving the last show and said, hey, in close rounds, maybe we can give it to the big man, which happens. But I don't think he had that many close rounds, Mannix.
The first warning sign I had was Friday when he weighed in at 299. Like, he weighed 310 for Parker, but that was him getting off the couch. Presumably, he had a training camp for this fight. Now, he kind of alluded to after the fight issues cutting weight, issues with his training camp. I didn't hear any of that. And unfortunately, we didn't have fighter meetings for the show. But like, you had 2-ish months to get ready, and you come in at 299. Now, he's weighed close to that before. I think the Carlos Takam fight, he was right around that weight. But his breakout performance was against Jared Anderson, and he weighed 284 in that fight. And 15 pounds makes a difference. It affects your conditioning, your wind. Look, Bakole kept he had a couple of weird moments. He had that moment in the 5th. He had a great 4th round. Then the 5th, he comes out and he's leaning on the ropes. He took the 5th round off. That was after he lost, I think, 3 of the first 4. Great 4th round. Ajagba's corner is talking to him, saying, hey, man, you can't do that. You can't do that. And Bakole comes out and gives away the 5th. I didn't really get that. And then he kept banging his chest, begging Ajagba to stand in the middle of the ring and fight him. Why would Ajagba do that? Ajagba's got to be looking at him going, I'm boxing circles around you, dude. Why would I stand there and stick my chin out and risk doing that? So I thought Ajagba fought a great fight. I assume there's going to be a rematch. Ajagba said to me afterwards, it's going to be in the U.S. if I'm doing a rematch. I understand that, but neither one of these guys has a great option otherwise. So on a future card, I could see these 2 guys run it back, which I'd be fine with. It wasn't as good a fight as I had hoped, but if they ran it back, I'd still bet on it being more explosive than being a tactical fight if they do it again.
I was fooled by this fight. I thought there was going to be a knockout. It wasn't going to last, a handful of rounds, and it ended up being a strategic fight for Ajagba and a lazy fight. That's what it was. Bakole fought a lazy fight. He was expecting Ajagba to come into the middle of the ring. He didn't want to move. He got tired of trying to pin down Ajagba. But Ajagba wasn't running. Ajagba was boxing, popping him. There was clean shots, the jab, the right hand. And even when Ajagba stayed against the ropes to give him a chance, Bakole landed some shots, and Ajagba will counter with some shots and said, okay, I let you have your moment. Now it's time for me to move again and start boxing. This is my fight, listening to his corner. I would like to see it again, but I really, really hope that Bakole has a serious camp. Stop with the bullshit. Get a serious camp under your belt. You're not a boogeyman no more. Martin Bakole, he went from the Anderson fight being a top-rated, scary-looking heavyweight to a guy that's just making excuses now. He's more funny than he is scary. He's like a jolly old guy now instead of being like a nightmare from the Congo. So I don't want to see no more of this clowning from him. I want a serious camp. I want him to come in a lot under 299 pounds and take a fight serious and knock someone's block off so he can get back on top and maybe get a heavyweight championship.
All right. Well, it is after
9 a.m., man. So we've been up almost 22 hours or something like that.
It's not 22 hours.
It's over 20, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know what time you got up today, but the sun is out. It's time for you to steal some of my melatonin gummies and get the hell out of my room.